Hi, it's Jane, and today I am doing this tutorial on the spring garden shawl. This is a pattern I wrote quite some time ago, and this one was done in sweet rolls. I think that's what they were. Sweet rolls in the colorway Blueberry Hill, if I remember correctly. Blueberry swirl. I keep calling it hill. It's blueberry swirl. And that was the colorway that this is. Um, and this is a shawl that is about a 10-row repeat. But many of the rows are just repeats of the previous row, so don't get too scared about them. They're really relatively easy. And on this one, I did leave the last 2 rows as just the double crochet rows, did not add a border to it. You can or add a border to this shawl if you so desire, but I did not desire. In the tutorial, I am using Big Twist Freelance in the color Brown Gold Rust Dusty Blue Multi. And there is the colorway in there. This is a little bit, this cake's a little bit messed up, so it's the last one I'm going to use. In the original pattern, I had used 16 ounces of Red Heart Ombre in Scuba. And that's back when you could get the real big ones. And I want to say 16 ounces, may have been 14 ounces. But I've also done it in a plain and used just 2 7-ounce, just a plain straight color, no variegation to it. Variegated, you're probably still going to need at least 14 to 16 ounces for whatever you choose in that colorway. It is, I'm using a 4-weight and a J hook. This pattern, you can use any weight of yarn as long as your hook is comparable to it. You could use a K hook or an L hook with this, and it would be even more lacy and have more body to it, give to it, a little bit more flowy. I chose to use a J because that's my favorite hook. So, you could choose whatever you want. But let's get to the table and we'll get the tutorial started. And I got my horn up today, so it's been that way all day. All right, see you at the table. Hi, it's Jane. And today we're going to work on the, I'm going to show you how to do the spring garden shawl. This is a shawl that I wrote, pattern I wrote probably, I don't know, quite a few years ago. I'm going to say 2016, 2015, somewhere around in there. I don't remember exactly. 2018 actually. And what you're going to need is you're going to use, if you are using a regular skein, like say Red Heart, or I love this yarn, plain colors, you're going to need 2, just straight up color without any prints or marbling or, variegated. You're going to need 2 skeins of about 7 ounces. You could do more if you want it to be much longer, much bigger. I had used in the last sample that I had done, I used about 2.5 of sweet rolls in the Blueberry Hill colorway. But today I am going to use Big Twist. And this is in the color, it's called Big Twist Freelance. I'm sure I picked this up cheap or something because I got quite a few of them. But it is a 4-weight yarn, and it is in the color brown, gold, rust, and dusty blue multi. And it's a very pretty color. Kind of reminds me of fall, but I am going to use that, and I've got 3 cakes of it just in case. You're going to need some way to count your stitches. I use a poppet, and as you can see, I have those poppets numbered. So when I go through row 1, I push it down, row 2, push it down, row 3, push it down, and 4, that kind of thing. And then if I'm doing repeats, say I'm doing a repeat of row 1, I push it up, each one as I go. You can use a counter. You could use a piece of paper, pen, pencil to keep your tally going. I am using a J hook today, and you can use any type yarn you want. Just make sure that your hook is comparable for what you're using. If you're using a bulky yarn, you may want to use a K, an L, or an M size hook. Of course, if you're using a bulky with the larger hooks, you're going to get a much more draperier shawl. This shawl is I believe it's a 9-row repeat. No, yeah, 9-row, 10-row. It's repeat rows 5 through 15, if I remember correctly. Let me double check. Yep, that is the row repeat. I am going to go along and do 3 repeats with you, but we're first going to get started with this shawl. Some of the stitches that are used are V-stitches and a wrapped stitch, a chain, double crochet, single crochet, that kind of thing. So there are several ways to start it. So we will get started with row 1. Now I use a magic ring for mine, so I am going to do a magic ring. If you do not like to do magic ring, you can simply do a chain 4 and join together. Now, I've done my magic ring and I need to chain 2. So I've got 2 stitches here. At the beginning of each row, you are going to chain 2 stitches. These do count as a double crochet in this pattern. So what we're going to do first is put 2 double crochets into this ring. And I'm going to assume that you already know how to crochet. Then we will do chain 2, and then we will follow that with 3 double crochets into this ring. Now if you are using a chain 4 slip stitch together to form your ring, you would basically do the same thing. You would chain 2, put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets into your ring. Now with this one, you can tighten it down, and we can tighten it down a little bit further when we do stitch it closed, because it will come open, a couple times, but that's really not that big a deal. Now we're moving on to row 3. These are setup rows for this pattern. And again, we are going to chain 2 and then turn our work, and we are going to put a double crochet into the same stitch, and then we will double crochet in each stitch to the chain 2 space. Boy, that's really loosey-goosey today. And then when we get to our chain 2 space, we are going to put 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. Chain 2, 2 more double crochets into that chain 2 space. And then we will again put a double crochet into each stitch till we get to the last stitch. And the last stitch we will put 2 double crochets into it. And there you have that portion of it. Then again for the third row, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, 2 double crochets into this first, not 2 double crochets, a double crochet into this first one, and a double crochet into each stitch, again to that last stitch on this row. Where we will once again put 2 double crochets chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. Double crochets are a basis for a lot of shawls. And if you're not familiar with the double crochet, it is a yarn over, go into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're basically going to do the same thing we did on the previous row with double crochets in each of those stitches. And when we get to that last stitch, we are going to put 2 double that's difficult. 2 double crochets into that last stitch in the top of the chain 2. Again, we'll chain 2 for row 4. Now row 4 is the exact same thing as all the other rows. We're going to put a double crochet into this first one, and then a double crochet into each stitch to the center. And then we will again place 2 double crochets into the center. Chain 2, 2 more double crochets into the center, and then a double crochet in each stitch to the last stitch, which is that chain 2 of the previous row. And like I said, even with this one, this pattern, I use a J hook, but you can use a larger hook if you choose. That is something that I write into my patterns always, so that you have a choice in the way that it looks. You can do more, you can change it up a little bit, whatever your heart desires. Now, row 5 is where we begin to see a little bit of a difference. We're going to chain 2, double crochet into that first stitch. Then we're going to chain 1, skip this next stitch, double crochet into this next one. Again, chain 1, skip this next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, you're going to repeat that all the way to the end. See if I can get this light a little bit better. Skip the next, double crochet into this one, chain 1, skip the next, double crochet into the next, chain 1, double crochet into the next one, chain 1. Now you are at the center, and once you've gotten to the center, you're going to put 2 double crochets, because you're going to skip this stitch here, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. Then you are going to chain 1, skip this next stitch, double crochet into this one. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into this next one. Chain 1, skip the next, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip the next, double crochet into this next stitch. Chain 1, and 2 double, you're going to skip this stitch and 2 double crochets into the last stitch. And there we have our first row that's a little different than all of the rest of those stitches. Now, as I'm working with this, I can see that this yarn is a little thicker than just the Premier yarn, and I probably should have gone up to a K-hook, but I'm not going to worry about it now. I'm just going to continue. Row 6, we are going to chain 2 and do a double crochet into this next stitch. We are going to do a V-stitch into the chain 1 space, and a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into that same space. And you're going to repeat that, putting those V-stitches in each chain 1 space until you get to 2 stitches before the chain 2 space. So let's get to this next one. Again, another V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into that chain 1 space. Same thing here, just continue with your V-stitches. Now, for some of you, you may want to color control. I do not color control. I just don't worry about it. You know, I think all shawls come out beautiful regardless. Now that you've gotten to the chain 2 stitches before the chain 2 space, you're going to skip this next stitch, do a double crochet into this one, and then you will put 2 double crochets into that center chain 2 space, chain 2, 2 more double crochets. And then you will put another double crochet into that next stitch. You will skip this next stitch and start your V-stitches back to the last stitch. You put V-stitches into each chain 1 space. We have one more chain 1 space, put another V-stitch, chain 1 double crochet, then you're going to skip this next stitch here, and you will put 2 double crochets into the top of the chain 2. And that is row 6. For row 7, we are going to chain 2 and turn and place a double crochet into this first stitch. Then we're going to put a double crochet in each double crochet stitch to the center. You will not be putting a double crochet into the chain 1 spaces. Just a double crochet into each double crochet of the previous row. Skip your chain 1 spaces. Oops. But don't skip the double crochet. Lay that down so that you can see that there are no chain 1 spaces in this. Now that we are at our chain 2 space, we are going to put 2 double crochets into the center, a chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. Okay, had to answer that. So when we begin up this row again, we're just going to put a double crochet in each of the double crochet stitches from the row before. You're going to not put any stitches into the chain 1 spaces at all. I hope that you guys experiment a little bit with making shawls. You know, trying out some of the different stitches. This is just something that I like to do just on a whim. And many times I've done a lot of different shawl patterns without a pattern, just knowing the basis of getting a start done. Of course, in the last stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets. And then we will chain 2 and turn our work. And then we'll get ready for row 8. Now row 8 is basically going to be where we just place a double crochet in each stitch as we go along. It's kind of a repeat of 1, well, of 2, whatever it is. But you're going to put a double crochet into that same stitch, then a double crochet in each stitch to the center, and sometimes when you are creating shawls, you need to look at the way that the shawl is laying. If you see that it is bunching up as you're crocheting, then your next row you may need to pull that bunch out. And by that, I mean you may need to skip stitches in order to pull that out to where it looks, or it's no longer bunching up along the edge. And generally, I find what happens with that when you get a bunch in the shawl, it's because the stitch you're using is a much fuller stitch, say like a bobble. Of course, now that we're down to the chain 2 space, we'll put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. You know, it usually consists of a much fuller stitch, and that causes up some of the bunching because you've got way too much yarn in that area. So when you're doing the next row, you may need to skip 1 or 2 stitches to pull that out. I hope that's making a little bit of sense there. Because when it bunches up like this, when you're making that shawl, because the stitch is way too full, then the next row you have to even it out so it flattens it back out. And the best way to do that is to skip stitches. And it may be that when you get to the end of that row, for both of those, that you have the same number of stitches you did on the last row, which is okay because it straightens out your shawl. Straightens out those bumps and lumps. And I know that I crochet a little faster than most people like. So you do have the gear option down below where you can actually slow it down. Okay, this is the end. We're going to put 2 double crochets into that stitch. Chain 2 and turn our work. Row 9 consists of putting a double crochet into that same stitch there, and then skipping 2 stitches, 1, 2, and putting 3 double crochets into the next. We're going to skip 2 and then 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2 and 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Let me see if I can move that just a teeny bit closer. See if that helps a little bit. Okay. Skip the next 2 and 3 double crochets into this next row. Skip 2 and 3 double crochets into this next row. Skip 2 and 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2, 3 double crochets into this next stitch. Now you're going to skip this next stitch and place into the center, chain 2 space, 2 double crochets, 2 chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Going to skip this next stitch and put 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2 stitches, 3 double crochets into the next stitch. You're going to repeat that all the way to the end. Skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Skip 2, 3 double crochets into this next stitch. Now you're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and in that last stitch on top of the chain 2, you're going to put 2 double crochets. Then it's chain 2 and turn your work. And it's getting to be a fairly good size here. Row 10 is another double crochet into this first stitch. Get some more yarn out. Now, you're going to do a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So a double crochet here, double crochet here. Then you're going to do a double crochet around both of those stitches. This creates a wrap stitch, so you yarn over, go around pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Then you're going to skip this next one and do a double crochet in the next 2. And again, double crochet around the 2, yarn over, go through the front to the back, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You'll skip this next stitch. Basically what you're doing is you are skipping the center stitch of the chain of those 3 double crochets. So you're going to skip that next stitch and again double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then we'll do our wrap stitch again, which is a yarn over, go through front to back on the first of that stitch, yarn over, pull up loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Skip the next, double crochet into the next 2. Let me see if I can explain that wrap stitch a little bit better. You're going to yarn over and go to the space in between the last wrap stitch and this first stitch here. Go around it front to back, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to repeat that all the way down to the end till we get to our chain 2 space. I think I'm going to need to bring a little more light into this. It is a dark and gloomy day here, so hold on a second. It's a little bit better on the lighting. Okay, once again, we're doing our wrap around. Skip the next, double crochet into this next stitch, in the next one, then do our wrap. Skip the next, double crochet into this next one, and the next stitch there. Do our wrap stitch again. Now we're 1 stitch from our center where we have our chain 2, so we're going to skip this stitch and place 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into that chain space. And then down the second side of this shawl, we'll skip this next stitch, do a double crochet into this stitch and the next stitch, and then do our wrap, yarn over, go around, front to back, pull up a stitch, loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Skip this next, double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Kind of split a little bit there. Do our wrap around the stitch. This is a wrapped double crochet stitch. And I like this stitch. It's a lot of fun to do, to add different spice to your work. You can do it over 1 stitch, you can do it over 3 stitches, you can do it over 4. It just changes the length of your wrap. But it's a lot of fun to incorporate it into some of the things you're working on. And in our last stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. And there's what it looks like so far. For row 11, we are going to put a double crochet into that same stitch there. Then we will skip 2 stitches, this stitch here and here, and we will put 3 double crochets into that center stitch over the wrap. Again, skip 2, 1, 2, and here in this center stitch, right there over the wrap, I hope you can see that. 1, 2, and right there, it's right over the wrap, center stitch, 3 double crochets. You're going to repeat that down this side. Skip 2, 1, 2, right into the center above the wrap. Here's the wrap, and above, 3 double crochets. And you're going to repeat that all the way to the end. One, 2, in that center, double crochet, 3 of those lovely double crochets. Skip the next 2, right in that center, 3 double crochets. Skip the next 2, into that center, 3 double crochets. Skip the next 2, into the center, 3 double crochets. You're going to skip the next 2 and put 3 double crochets into this one. Now into our center, with the chain 2 spaces, we're going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. I skipped a little bit of a stitch. Let me go back and do that. For some reason that didn't get pulled all the way through. Split. Now into this stitch, next stitch, 3 double crochets. Skip the next 2, and in that center stitch, 3 double crochets. Skip 2, into that middle stitch, 3 double crochets. Skip 2, into this third stitch, which is the center of the wrap stitch, 3 double crochets. You will find that you get into a rhythm with this when you're doing each one of these rows. You'll be able to find that center easier without counting. And it's the stitch that's right over the bar of the wrap. And I hope you can see what I mean. Here is your bar, and there is the center stitch. So you'll put 3 double crochets into that. Now we've reached the end, so we skip 2 stitches, and in that last stitch where the chain 2 is, we'll put 2 double crochets. Then chain 2 and turn our work. Now we'll place a double crochet into that first stitch like normal, and we will do a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Then we'll skip the next stitch, and we will do a wrap double crochet again. So crochet into those 2 double stitches, and then a wrap double crochet. Skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next 2, and then again we'll do our wrap double crochet. You'll yarn over, go to that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to repeat that to the end. Now we've reached the stitch just before our center, and here we are simply going to we're going to skip this stitch here and put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into that center. Okay, now this next side, what we're going to do is we're going to, sorry, thought I was going to have to sneeze. Going to skip this next stitch, 2 double crochets, not 2 double crochets, double crochet in the next 2 stitches and do our wrap around that stitch there. Skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next 2 stitches and our wrap stitch. Now I am going to go off camera and get to the end. What we are going to do is we are going to follow this all the way to the last stitch there and to that last little chain, 3 double crochets in that last stitch, and then I will follow up with you there. Now I've reached my last 3 double crochets in the same stitch. I'm going to skip this one, double crochet into this stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and do our wrap stitch around those 2 there. And then we will put 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space, top of the chain 2. Then chain 2 and turn, and that is what that looks like now. I did forget to remind you that when you get to the center point, you're skipping those last 2, and then at the very first, the stitch right next to the center space, you're putting 3 double crochets. And then in your center space, you will put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into that center chain 2 space. Now when you start this up, you're going to put 3 double crochets into this next stitch. And then you will again begin that pattern repeat where you're skipping the next 2 stitches and going over the center stitch, over the wrap stitch, and putting 3 double crochets. And you will repeat that until you get to the last stitch. And then when you get to the last stitch, you will put 2 double crochets into that last stitch. You'll skip this last one and you'll put 2 double crochets into this last stitch. Chain 2 and turn. Now we will again start with a double crochet into that first stitch. Now row 14, I can get my poppet down there. You're just going to do a double crochet in each stitch, all the way to the center point. And once you reach the center point, you will put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then you will start up the other side with a a double crochet in each stitch up to the last stitch, and when you get to the last stitch, you'll put 2 double crochets. So I'm going to do that here now and come back once I've got to this last corner, and then we will move on to row 15. So I'll see you back in a few minutes. I have reached my last stitch, and so I'm going to put 2 double crochets into that chain 2 top of it. If I can get my hook to work properly. And then we will chain 2 again and turn our work. And row 15 is just a repeat of row 14. You're going to put a single crochet in each stitch. When you get to the center, you are going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then single, double crochet in each stitch to the last stitch, where you will put 2 more double crochets. Now, I'm not going to do this row with you because we've already done that. That's a pretty simple row. So basically what you're going to do is it's a double crochet into each stitch. Then when you get to the chain 2 space, you'll put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then double crochet in each stitch up to the last stitch. When you get to that last stitch there, you'll put 2 double crochets into that last stitch. Now, that ends the row repeat. The row repeat then begins again with row 5. So I will meet up with you for row 5, and we will do the next couple of rows for that row repeat. So I'll see you then. Now I've pulled out so you can see what it looks like so far. Now, row 5 is our eyelet row. And for row 5, you've chained 2. And you're going to turn and then put a double crochet into that first chain there. And then you will chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet to the next, and you're going to do that all the way to the center. And when you get to the center, again, you'll place 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. And then you will start on the other side by repeating that by chaining 1, skipping this next stitch, and double crocheting into the next. If you have lost your counting guide or your paperwork to tell you what row repeat you are in, if you will find the eyelet row, which is right here, this is row 5, this would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you would know that the eyelet row is your row 5 if you ever lose your place in your counting. That's happened to me, and then that way you can figure out what row you are on following that pattern. So I'm going to continue doing this row completely off camera. I think you know how to do an eyelet row, chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet next, and you just repeat that all the way to the end. When you get to your last stitch, the last stitch here, you may wind up with a stitch in here. Most likely you're going to wind up with a stitch here. Then you would chain 1, skip this, and then do your 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into your chain 2 space. That is ideally how it works out. If you have gotten off somehow, should be a fairly easy fix. You could fudge it. If you wound up being in this stitch here, then you could simply not do your chain 1 and then do a double crochet, chain 2, and the 2 double crochets, and then get back into it. But you should be right on the pattern easily. I mean, I've not had any issues with this pattern getting it to that. What you'll see is that the double crochets here, the 3 double crochets here in each row tend to pull that out, because you can see where it's kind of starting to bunch up a little bit. That will pull it out straight. And yeah, so go ahead and do 5 row, row 5, and then we will meet up for row 6. Coming up to that center space, and you'll notice that I've got 2 stitches left. So I'm going to skip this next stitch, do a double crochet into this stitch, chain 1, and then put 2 double crochets into this stitch here, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Since I put in that chain 1 here, I will put in a chain 1 here and then go directly into this stitch here. Okay, then chain 1 and skip 1, and then start that process up the other side. Some of the rows you will end in this stitch and then a chain 1 and go directly into the chain 2 space. Some of these you will end on the last stitch here. Just go ahead and do another chain 1 and then put your 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space. It will work out just fine. As you can see, it starts to lay flat even with that. So that's what I meant by the difference of those stitches and fudging and those kind of things. If you wanted to, you could skip this last stitch, not even do it in here, do a chain 1 and go directly into the center. That is completely up to you. This shawl is a pretty forgiving shawl, regardless of how you want to do it. But you'll notice with with what I'm doing with this row is I am going ahead and adding those stitches. So it's up to you what you want to do with that. All right, see you again soon. Now the repeat for row 6 is that chain 2, double crochet into that first stitch, and then we are going to start doing V-stitches into our chain 1 spaces. First chain 1 space is here, so we will do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into that stitch. And we will place V-stitches in each chain 1 space, all the way down. Well, folks, my battery died, so I had to change the battery. What I was saying is that you're going to do your V-stitches in chain 1 spaces here. And a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into that same space. You're going to repeat that all the way down into each one of your chain 1 spaces. And when we get to the center, I'll meet you there. Okay, I'm coming up to that last chain 1 space here, and I'm going to put another V-stitch. Then I'm going to skip these 2 stitches here and do my 2 double crochets, chain 2, into the center. Then I will skip these 2 stitches here and start with the V-stitches along the other edge. Remember, you're only putting the V-stitches into the spaces of the chain 1, wherever your chain 1 space is. You'll continue that up to this last chain space here, where you'll again put another V-stitch. You'll skip this stitch and then you'll put 2 double crochets into this last stitch. And then we will start row 7. See you then. Now row 7 is the row where we just put double crochets into the double crochets of the stitches before. We do not put double crochets into the chain 1 spaces at all. So we've done our chain 2 for the turning of our row. We'll put a double crochet into that first chain. That's our first increase. Then we will put a double crochet into the double crochet and do that again. We'll skip the chain 1 space, double crochet into the tops of the double crochets only. You're going to do that down both sides, down and up both sides, however you want to call it. And of course, when you get to the center, where you've got your chain 2 space, you'll put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. And then you'll again just start putting a double crochet in each single one of the crochets. What you'll see is that will pull it out a little bit to where it's no longer starting to ruffle. Like here, you'll see a little bit of a ruffle, and that will pull that back out again. So I'm going to let you do that row all on your own. I think it's fairly simple. And then we'll get to row 8. I'm just going to remind you of what each row is throughout this. And I think I told you in the beginning I was going to do 3 repeats. I'm just going to do the 2 repeats because I have a feeling if I do that this video is going to be about 2 hours long. And nobody wants that. So go ahead and work your stitches on both sides, and I'll meet up with you when we get to row 8. Now row 8 is a real simple row. It's just a row of double crochets. You're going to do your increase here in that first one, and then just double crochet in it each stitch to the center point. And when you get to that center point, then you're going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then double crochets all up the other side to the last stitch, where you will put in 2 double crochets into that chain 2, top of the chain 2 of the previous row. And that is it for row 8. So I will meet you up when we are ready to start row 9. Okay, we're ready for row 9. Need to chain our 2, and I've chained our 2. This row begins with a double crochet into that first stitch. Then we are going to skip 2 stitches. 1, 2. In the next one, we'll be placing 3 double crochets. Again, we'll skip 2 stitches and 3 double crochets into that next stitch. You're going to repeat that all the way down to the end. And when you get to the center, you once again will do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. Now, as you're going along, you should end up, when you get to this space here, you should end up with either 1 or 2 stitches left. You're going to skip those and go directly into your chain 2 space. A lot of that just depends on how your other stitches fell, how you chose to put your chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, that kind of thing. It depends on if you added that extra stitch there or if you left it completely alone as to what will happen with your shawl. So I say the shawl is very forgiving, because it will work out even if you do add more stitches. For some reason, it just works out. And I don't really sweat it if I do have an extra 2 stitches. But I think I'm only going to have 1 at the end. Let's work down that way and see what happens. And we're getting close to it. So we should have an idea what's going to happen next. If I told you a story or not. Like I said, I've got 2 stitches left, so I'm going to skip both of those. And I'm actually just going to do 2 double crochets. Actually, I think in the original, I just went ahead and did 3 double crochets in that one. but I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches here and then start my 3 double crochets. And like I said, some of that is, I did see that there was a little bit of bunching. Let me show you that. Saw a little bit of bunching here. So by skipping those 2 stitches here in the end, that actually pulls it out a little bit more. Like I said, you can put 3 stitches in that 1 stitch before the chain 2 space if you want to. I don't always do it when I'm doing row 9. Row 11, I always put the 3 double crochets in that last stitch before the chain 2 space. So row 9, I don't always do that, but then when we get to row 11 and we do that repeat, then I will put that in there. But you're just going to finish this all the way up to where you get to your last 2 here, last 3 here. You'll skip those 2. I think it's 2. And then you'll put 2 double crochets into your last stitch here, which is your chain 2 from the previous row. And then we will be ready to do row 10. So I will meet up with you back there. We're ready to start row 10, and row 10 is our wrap row. So we start out with a double crochet into the same stitch there. We'll double crochet into the next 2 stitches and then start our wrap stitch, which is a yarn over and go back to the 2 stitches, wrap around, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then we skip 1 stitch and then double crochet into the next stitch, 2 stitches for 2 double crochets, and then our wrap around, yarn over, wrap around those 2 stitches, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then we will do our wrap, which is yarn over, go around both of those stitches, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to repeat that all the way down until you get to the center. And I'm going to work my way down there, and I will meet up with you when we get to that point. I wanted to remind you, we've gotten now down to that center part. So you're still going to skip this, double crochet into the next 2, do your wrap stitch. And then you're going to skip this stitch and go straight into the chain 2 space, put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Then you will skip this stitch here, double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and again start your wrap stitches. Skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next 2, and do your wrap. And you're going to do that all the way up until you get to the end here. When you get to the end here, you'll be double crocheting in these 2 stitches, doing your wrap, and then you will place 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space of the previous row, and then you'll chain 2 and turn for row 12. Not row 12, row 11. Sorry about that. And I'll meet you up when we're ready to start row 11. We are ready for row 11. And row 11 is where we are putting it back in the 3 double crochets. So we've chained 2 for our turn, double crochet into the same stitch. Hang on. Sorry about that. So our next thing that we're going to do is we're going to skip 2 stitches, and that will fall right into the center stitch of our wrapped stitch. Call it center stitch. It's really the first stitch of the wrapped stitch, but it's right above the bar. And there we will put 3 double crochets. Again, skip 2 right there above that wrap, 3 double crochets. Now we're going to repeat that all the way down. Now when we get down to the end here, we've put 3 in here. We'll skip this stitch and this stitch. We will put 3 double crochets into this stitch, and then into our center we will put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then we will start again here with 3 double crochets into that first stitch. Then we will skip the next 2, and again then we will start in with our stitches. Yeah, that's basically it for this row, and we're just going to repeat that all the way down. So I will do that all the way up to the other side, and when I get close to the other side, we'll get into how to finish that as well. Put that in the wrong stitch. It's 3 double crochets, chain 2, skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next one. And you're going to follow that all the way through. And when we get up to the other edge here, we will do 3 double crochets into this stitch here, skip 2, and 2 double crochets into this last top of the chain 2 of the previous row, and then we will be ready for row 12. Okay, we are ready to start row 12. So we chain 2, turn our work, and do a double crochet into that first stitch. Now, we are going to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. I don't know how I got so scooted over. And then we will do our wrap stitch around those 2 stitches. Then we will skip the next stitch, crochet, double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and do our wrapped stitch around those 2. Skip the next, double crochet into the next 2, and we're going to do that all the way down to the end. Now I'm going to go ahead and work towards the end. If you remember, at that end, not at the end, at the center point, we had done those 3 double crochets. So I'm going to work all the way down to here, and then I will work this section here with you again. Okay? So I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, I've gotten down to where I'm close to the center here. Done my wrap stitch here. Going to skip these 2 stitches. Skip this next stitch. Double crochet into these next 2 stitches. Do my wrap stitch around that. Then we'll skip this last stitch here and into the double chain, 2 chain space, we will put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and I need to untangle my yarn. Not sure how that got tangled up. There it is. The tail end. Okay. And then 2 more double crochets there. Then we will skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Do our wrap stitch around those 2 stitches. Then skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next 2. Do our wrap stitch around those 2 double crochets. And we'll just continue that on until we get to the end here. And of course, when you get to the end of this other side, you've done your wrap stitches in this. You'll skip the next stitch, and in the very last chain 2, you'll put 2 double crochets, and then we will be ready for row 13. See you guys then. Now I've already done my chain 2 and turned my row for row 13. And so we're going to put a double crochet into that first stitch. And then we are going to skip 2 stitches and into this middle stitch. I call it middle stitch, but it's right above the bar, the first stitch. You're going to put 3 double crochets. Then you're going to skip the next 2 stitches and into the first stitch that's in the bar, under the bar, above the bar, not under. Above the bar, you're going to put those 3 double crochets. Skip the next 2, and in this next one, 3 double crochets. I'll show you that next one where the bar is. Skip the next 2. You'll go into here. Your bar starts right here. That's the first stitch of those 2 double crochets. You'll put in 3 double crochets. And you're going to do that all the way to the center point where your chain 2 space is. You notice I don't use a stitch marker, but you certainly can if you want. When you get to this point, you put your 3 double crochets in here. You're going to skip. Sorry about that. You'll skip those 2, and then you will put 3 double crochets into this stitch here, and then into the center space you'll do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and you'll start off right here with 3 double crochets in that first stitch. Then you'll skip 2 And you'll start again in that first stitch just above the bar, putting those 3 double crochets into that stitch. You're going to follow that up all the way to this, to the other side, to the top. Here you'll finish off with your 3 double crochets in here. You'll skip 2, but you have no place to put another 3 double crochets, so you just put 2 double crochets into the top of the chain 2. And then we will get to row 14. 14 and 15 are real easy. So I will see you back at that point. Now rows 13, rows 14 and 15 are the exact same rows. And basically they start with your increase in the first stitch. And then a a double crochet in each double crochet stitch. That's all the rows 14 and 15 are. And of course, when you get down to your chain 2 space, you're going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then you will start going up with a double crochet. I keep saying single, double crochet in each stitch till you get to the other corner, the other side of the shawl. And in that chain 2 space of the previous row, you will put 2 double crochets. Now, I'm not going to crochet the whole thing with you because it's fairly simple. It's easy. You just know that row 14 and 15 are the double crochet rows. And those are, like I said, these rows here are both double crochets. Now, once you get those 2 rows of double crochet, you're just going to repeat rows 5 through 15 until it is the length that you want. Now, in the pattern, I did tell you that on the one of those ones that I had done, I had stopped on row 8, which was a single crochet row. And when I had done that, what I had decided to do was to leave it alone and not add any border. Now, you could add a border, any type of border you want. You could add a picot border. You could add a shell border. I mean, the possibilities are endless with this shawl for border rows. But I chose to leave the last 2 rows as just double crochet rows and leave it basically a plain shawl without making it either more feminine or a more masculine look to it with the picots. So you can do whatever you want with it. That is the beauty of this pattern. Now this pattern is free. It is in the file section of my Facebook group, Scraptastic Yarns, and it is called the Spring Garden Shawl. And you're more than welcome to download it and share that with other friends, whatnot. And yeah, that is it for this shawl pattern. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it will give you a little bit of freedom in learning to create your own shawls by adding different stitches. You could even add different stitches to this. After you get through with doing that, you could add in shell stitches. You name it. And then do another row of single crochets. Whatever. It's just you using your creativity and changing a pattern that has already been started up changing it up a little bit so that it is more within something that you enjoy. You may not enjoy doing all these stitches or all these rows. Certainly you could just start with the basics right here and then go on to whatever you choose from it. Look at that cat hair. I'm telling you, cat hair's everywhere. Um, but yeah, that is it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon. Everybody have a great week.